Hello and welcome to the Simply Business interview series. I'm your host, John Jennings. I believe most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of the issues I see is that we over complexify things. And I believe that most of the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. And I always like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to my podcast, Simply Business. Today, I am joined by Isaiah Fritz, who is the CEO and entrepreneurial founder of Online Selling Partner. Isaiah, thank you for joining us. Why don't you kick us off by just telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate being here on the pod or do you call this a podcast or you just call it like the series?
I call it whatever you want to call it. We're pretty flexible.
Awesome. Well, I'm super pumped and thank you, whoever's listening to this today. So like John said, my name is Isaiah. I'm from Southern Indiana, right across the river from Louisville, Kentucky. So I don't know, John, do you hold that against me or like?
Not at all. I half my clients are on that side of the river. I'm not going to call it the sunny side of the river, but
You're
let's
not
just say
gonna go
that side of the river.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're pretty close. We're not too far away. And I was born 2 miles north of Louisville, Kentucky, and my business is 7 miles north of Louisville, Kentucky. So it's pretty much the big city. So we get all the benefits of the big city without the big city. So it's really nice. And I started when I was 15 years old, selling products on eBay and then Amazon. I actually started on eBay. My parents did back in '99 just as a side hustle. And I started working with them. And when I was 11 years old, sold my first thing on eBay. And then I was 15, started my own business, registered my LLC, did all that fun stuff. And started on Amazon, which is primarily what we do today, is we help manufacturers and brands sell their products on Amazon. I started just by flipping products on Amazon, but learned that it really wasn't really bringing any value to the companies that I work with. I was just leeching off of their brand by just, buying and selling and arbitraging, which is great to learn how to do business and learn from there. But it wasn't really, in my eyes, it wasn't super scalable to the level of where we have it, where we're going. Instead of, there's a lot of brands out there that are having real issues selling their products on Amazon. It's a hard marketplace. And so what we do is we work as a channel arm for them. We still buy and sell their products like another seller, but we're also doing the account management on Amazon, updating all the photos, the titles, the descriptions, going after SEO, hitting the right keywords, PPC advertising, all that stuff, and getting them into prime shipping and making sure their logistics are aligned or so that they can get their product to the customer as quickly as possible with Amazon Prime. And we do all that at no cost to the brands, just by buying the product and selling it and becoming their exclusive online partner for Amazon. So it took a lot of iterations until we got to this business model, but it seems to be working out really well for us. And I started with some local Indiana companies, and now we're working with companies all over the world, from New Zealand to Japan to a bunch of different states all over. So it's been quite a wild ride, but I'm really
you blow my mind. You absolutely. I'm not speechless very often, but I'm sitting here, sitting across the virtual table from someone who. You started your first business at 15. I mean, I guess I was in college when I started my first one, and I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing then. Just the level of maturity just in our conversation and our brief conversation before, I'm just really blown away by it. So your parents obviously have an entrepreneurial bug as well. So did you catch this entrepreneurial bug naturally? You think? Was it always there?
That's a great question. So my mom raised us. We're homeschooled, so that's another hack that we had that
Right.
people don't have, right? So it could be part of the curriculum. Might have been calculating eBay fees for math. So uh, so we definitely I benefited from being homeschooled by a entrepreneurial mom who's eBay on the side hustle, right? And then
Right.
my dad, uh, he had side hustles too, but he's always had a full time 9 to 5 job. And then, but my grandpa, uh, my mom's dad, he's always been an entrepreneur his whole life, and I started working with him when I was like 14, doing flooring locally, and so I got to learn how to work and understand the concept of working for yourself and what was possible. I remember him saying like, you know, if you want to make $1,000 a day, you can just do it. You just gotta think that way. Like you want to make $1,000 a day, then you got to bid your jobs at $1,000 a day. And if you want to make $100 a day, you bid your jobs at $100 a day. And the person's brain is no bigger if they're doing $100 a day or $1,000 a day. It's just whatever you choose, to do. Uh, and I
Sounds a
remember
little like he was influenced maybe by a little Napoleon Hill and Brian
I
Tracy and a few other folks that have taught
no,
that
he
for years.
he never was that think and grow rich type mentality. It was just him from trial and error and
Yeah,
learning.
he
Like
figured it out.
that's what he figured out. He doesn't really read books or anything, but he was very hands-on, in the trenches type of entrepreneur, and had his own flooring store and everything. And now I actually work with him, and we build houses together, and we have a partnership, which is pretty sweet to be able to continue to be working with him. Um, but yeah, I think my mentality was like, hey, if you look at some of these very successful people like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or whatever, and what I started studying and saying, okay, how do I work backwards from there? If I want to be successful, you want to figure out how do you work backwards from success, and figure out how to do it for yourself. If this person's making $1,000 a day or $10,000 a day or $100,000 a day, how do you just work backwards from there and figure out what they're doing, and then figure out how you can do it too. So I'm not saying I'll ever get to Bezos level, but I definitely
You're off to a
uh
pretty good start.
definitely study a lot of that stuff and try to figure out how to get better and better and better as we continue to go down this business path. And it's pretty amazing. Every day you learn something new and constantly adjusting. And I think so many people out there are trying to figure out, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it exactly this way, and I'm going to make all this money. When I think in reality, you just got to figure out what the market wants, and you just got to fill the need in the market. I never planned or imagined that I would be building houses, and I never planned or imagined that I would be doing this business model, like if you would ask me 5 years ago or 8 years ago. But just constantly say, hey, here's a need in the market. It's a big opportunity. Why don't I go after this need in the market?
Yeah, you hit on something really good there about just reacting to something, and how there have been so many surprises along the
Yeah.
way. What has been the biggest surprise for you as a, and not picking on you being young, but a young business owner? Um, what what's been the biggest surprise to you coming into this kind of corporate world, so to speak, of running a business, entrepreneurial as it may be?
Um, my biggest surprise has been, uh, it's really hard because there's always surprises, but it would probably have something to do with people. Like my perception of what it would be like to have people working under me and hiring employees versus reality, because nobody in my family has built a company to, I've had 35 plus employees. That's, I've didn't have any experience. I don't have like a lot of people close to me that I know that run businesses with 35 employees. So I've had to just kind of figure it out as a went. And then now I have a lot of mentors and business friends that have companies a lot larger than me. So now, now I can kind of say, oh, okay, I'm not the only one, and kind of get advice from them. Um, but yeah, I would say, you know, they always say hire people smarter than you. I totally agree with that. Definitely hire people more mature than you, smarter than you. And I remember going to clients at 18 years old trying to sell a corporate client, and they're like, "Get out of my office. Who are you?" But so try to hire mature people to go on your sales calls with you. So you
Right.
things stupid, and I still say a lot of things stupid on sales calls. but anyway, it's
Must not be too stupid. Uh,
oh,
so,
funny.
so tell me about maybe one of those significant challenges you faced here in your business, and what you did to kind of overcome it. I know you shared a couple of things with me earlier. What's a challenge that probably some other business owners might face as well?
Yeah, so every day when I wake up in the morning, there's a new challenge, right? So I think this is a really good topic for business owners, and I know we talked about a little bit before, is making sure that you have some sort of structure and operating system if you have a multiple employee organization, and then focusing on teamwork. And that's been really a lesson for me, like over the last 12 to 18 months of setting up and figuring out. So we use EOS, which is the Entrepreneur Operating System, popularized by a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And we really follow that religiously, setting it up and trying to follow an actual operating system. It's become a lot more clear. Like, for example, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, like it starts off having an annual meeting where you really get down and you define in your animal, what is your vision, what is your values, what is your core focus, what is what makes your company unique, what is your when you get down to your core culture, like what values do you hire and fire upon, like what makes you different than other organizations. And then really defining your accountability chart is a term they have, which is kind of like an org chart, but defining what does each person in the organization, what are they accountable for? Because there's a lot of ambiguity as you're just hiring people to fill spots and fill roles. You're not necessarily defining their accountability. And then with an entrepreneur, you're constantly changing your business. And it's like, okay, Jill, you used to do that, but now you're going to do this. And then they're kind of like, oh, is that my job or is that not my job? And then so really taking the time to define accountability, but also being open to change that accountability ad hoc, right? So as your business grows and changes quickly like ours has, and you're hiring and you're firing and all these things are happening, that we have a fluid accountability chart that is being changed all the time. But just having an accountability chart where it kind of shows, like we just made major changes to our accountability chart this week, where we're pulling people from here, we're putting them in different positions, and we're moving people, and we try not to make major changes every month, but maybe once a quarter or whatever, we re-look at it and say, okay, do we need to make changes on accountability? So defining that, and then also defining a really good scorecard for your business, something that you can look at weekly on, like, hey, these are the numbers that you don't want to wait until your P&L gets calculated at the end of the month, and then you got 2 weeks until your books close, and then it's like, oh wow, we are way out of line where we thought we were going to be for that month. But you want to catch that stuff early. So you want to see how many sales did you make that week? Or, you want to get down to the nitty gritty of a weekly scorecard in your business and okay, it's great to have that. But then the other problem we had is we weren't watching it. It's like, you can set up the accountability. You can set up
I'm laughing because I've seen this so many times.
Yeah, this is just normal, right? Especially with crazy entrepreneurs like myself. And so you say, okay, all right, we set up a scorecard. Great. It's like, okay, well, what doesn't get watched doesn't get done, as you know, John.
Yes.
So you have to watch it. And so making sure you're having weekly meetings where you're focused, you're not getting distracted or on tangents or anything, and you're focused on what are our numbers and what is our key issues. And then, okay, after A lot of businesses, I know we suffered from a lot of talk, no action type of thing.
Yeah.
So you can talk about an issue, but when you actually get down and say, okay, we're going to solve this issue, this is the moment we're going to solve this issue. We're going to create a to-do and then give that to-do to somebody. And then they're going to be accountable next meeting. We're going to call you on it. Joe, did you call that supplier and fix that? Yes or no? Instead of lingering for months, so that's been a huge turning point in our business is making sure we have a good structure in an operating system, is like EOS calls it. But then the other big thing I've been working on, this is more recent, is focusing on team building and trust. And I think this is something that you're very passionate about, John, and I as well, especially recently, is I had a scenario where I was having one-on-ones. That's another thing. I think that you should have scheduled one-on-ones with your employees, especially 1 or 2 levels down from you, at a regular interval, even if it's once a quarter, just to make sure that, and make sure you're asking the right questions. Like, are you happy with your job? Right? Because I've had like random people like just leave, and it's like, why did you leave? It's like, oh, I wasn't happy at my job. It's like, well, how do I find out if you're happy? Well, you should have asked. And I was like, well, I guess I never really did ask. And then,
Yeah.
When you actually ask someone, are you happy with your job? Or
it's amazing how many people don't ask the basic questions, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for me.
Some of that may be just afraid of the answer too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people might just be afraid of what they're going to hear.
And the other awesome question you need to ask your employees often is, where do you see yourself in 6 months?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in a year? And then you can kind of understand, oh, wow, this is what I want. And then also ask them, like, what does success look like to you in your job? Just asking these very, very basic, simple questions at regular intervals, your employees will feel like they've been heard, which is huge because a lot of employees don't feel like they're heard. And they will set that expectation between you to the employee and then the employee to you.
And what you're doing is you're setting the foundation for that trust relationship, so that they know that they can come to you. That we talked about trust earlier, and it's such a critical component to the culture of an organization. If you don't, and Pat Lencioni, we talked about him earlier, all of his stuff will tell you, 5 dysfunctions of a team. And if you're not building your culture on the foundation of trust, you're not going to go anywhere. And boy, we see that as a problem. And I applaud you for facing it head on. Very, very mature of you. Very, just how anti-entrepreneurial that is to have that approach. So I'm quite impressed with that.
Yeah. And going back to what you're saying about Patrick in his books, like 5 Dysfunction or 5 Temptations of a CEO, or 4 Obsession of an Extraordinary Executive, all these books that he has are great. Talks about team players. Like, what do you want to see? So many people talk about, hey, I got to hire somebody based off of their resume. They did this, they did that. But how many people really evaluate people based off, are they a team player?
Right.
Are they humble? I think humility is one of the most overlooked values that every executive and employees must embrace to an extraordinary level, is humility. Because if you don't have humility, then you're not comfortable saying you're wrong. You're not comfortable to constantly improve. You're not comfortable letting other people have conflict with you or disagree with you. So making sure that your company, that's one of our core values, is humility, right? So that we make sure that our people, we try to create a culture of humility so that we know, hey, yeah, it's okay to say we're wrong. I want to hear when I'm making a mistake. I want to hear when you have a problem with me. And that just really builds that trust. And a lot of people, they think trust is like, okay, I trust you that you're gonna make the sales number. It's like, that's not the trust I'm talking about. Are you open to being vulnerable with me? Are you open to telling me about your mistakes? Are you open to getting yourself out of the way for the good of the company, right? Like those are the things, like the vulnerability type trust that your company must have. And I mean, to be frank, to be honest, like I've been learning that some of the people in my organization had trust issues with some of their direct reports and other people. So, we've been working through trust exercises and saying like, hey, let's get vulnerable with one another. Let's have sessions where, those people that have trust issues can sit down and say, hey, let me tell you about some of my mistakes and then reciprocate with your mistakes. And hey, can you give me honest feedback? Where do I need to, what do I need to fix? What do I need to do better? And in creating that culture and that environment like that, you could be working with the same team for 15, 20 years and have never done an exercise like that. And then realize like, wow,
Yeah. Here's a little statistic for you. 92% of people would trust their leader more if they would just admit their mistakes.
Wow. That's a great statistic. Love it.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. Well, I tell you, I could talk to you all day long, and I hope we get to talk some more. But let's wrap up with one thing. You've already given some great nuggets, man. I'm a big believer in an operating system. I use EOS. I use a couple of the other platforms, depending on. I'm not sold into one. I think I'm one of those, like, if it's a fit, let's go with it, right? And so I use 2 or 3 different platforms, but I love it. I love the operating system concept. I love the trust and culture part, and just the fact that, I mean, you'd be surprised how many business owners I talk to that will never mention one of their values. And I think you mentioned 1 or 2 of your values just in the discussion today.
Yeah, it's huge. You have to really talk about them a lot too.
Yeah, I think you don't talk about them, people don't know they're there. It's amazing. It's so amazing. I'd love you to give one nugget, one piece of advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, especially since you're just an incredibly gifted young entrepreneur. And I know in the Gen Z world, most of them want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
so
of course.
By far, this generation of yours wants to be entrepreneurs more than any other. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a business or just dreaming of doing that one day? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say, it's kind of a 3-pronged thought I have. Is one thing is try it, do it, crawl, walk, run, right? Start with, let's say you want to get in, you see an opening in whatever your skill sets, if you're in IT and you're a programmer and you go on Reddit and say, hey, I can make you a little program and try to get your first customer or whatever, just do it. Don't sit there and plan and figure out this is what I'm going to do. Just figure out what the market wants you to do. And then you make a plan from there. So, just put yourself out there, see if you can figure out what the market wants, start knocking on doors. If you're more of a physical person and you go to them and you say, hey, what do you need done around your house? And you might think they need their lawn mowed, but in reality, they might want you to trim their trees. You never know. So you got to figure out what works for you. 2 is be humble, right? And I think this kind of goes into the same thing. As so many people are, have big egos and they're like, hey, I'm going to do it this way or that way. But if you're humble, it's going to help you in so many different ways. And that's from experience, because I'm a naturally prideful person, right? And that's something I had to battle with in the beginning, because I was so prideful, and anybody say anything good about me, I would get my head puffed up and all that stuff. But in reality, if you stay humble and you realize that there's always somebody better than you, and there's always room for you to improve, you'll excel a lot farther and a lot faster. And if you look at the most successful people in the world and listen to them talk and everything, they're usually very humble people. And so I never forget that, and I think as soon as you get your eye off the ball, you're gonna fail, right? Your pride's gonna be the best of you, right? Because pride comes before the fall. The other third thing I would say is understand your why and what is your reason for becoming an entrepreneur, right? If it's just being because you think it's going to be easier than a 9-to-5 job, it's not. I'll tell you right then. So
amen.
If you think that being an entrepreneur is going to be easier, and that's your why, then stop right where you're at and just get yourself a really good, high-paying corporate job, because it's going to be a better life for you, and you're going to have that guaranteed income. If you want to do it just because you want to get rich and make a lot of money, then you need to really understand, why do you want to get rich? Why do you want to make a lot of money? Because if you want to get rich and have a lot of money just to spend it on yourself and be selfish, that also goes back to the humility question. It's like, you're going to be so self-centered, you're not going to be focused on customers, you're not going to be focused on really achieving true success, which is living for others. So I think going back to understanding why you want to do this, and then if your whys are right, then be humble and do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you won't be surprised, because I know you already. You won't be surprised how many people come to me and say, "Here's my why," and they'll show a picture like of their kids or something like that, or their house or something, and I'm like, I'm not going to buy from you just because you have mouths to feed. We all have mouths to feed. That's not a compelling why. You understand what a compelling why is. So many entrepreneurs don't. Well, Isaiah, thank you so much. You are an inspiration. It was awesome meeting you today. I'm blown away. I don't get blown away very often, but I'm blown away today, just to be honest. And so I truly appreciate your time. I look forward to getting to know you better. And to anybody that's joining us, you've been given a real gift today. Hopefully you've been inspired. Hopefully you're motivated to go out and do that. If this young man can do it, you can too. He's giving you some really sage words of advice. I look forward to seeing you on a future podcast. And if you want to connect with me, contact me on any of the social media platforms. I love to make contact with people. Isaiah, thanks again. It's been a real blessing today.
Absolutely. It's an honor for me to be on here with you, John, and to be with someone local, which is great, on their podcast. And I would say, for anybody listening out there, love to meet you. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, Isaiah Fritz. I'm the first Isaiah Fritz that usually comes up. So definitely click on that on LinkedIn, click the follow button, click the connect button, and I'll try to get back with you with any of your messages.
All right. Thanks again.